Hey guys, welcome back to New House, Old Soul. Today we're going to be talking about HVAC, the mechanicals, heating and cooling, how to make a house comfortable but still giving it that old soul.
Build Original Series, hosted by Brent Hall. New House, Old Soul. Sponsored by Stellar Floors and the Unico System.
Really to dive into this deal, I'm on the Build Show. I got to lay out my bias, right? My bias is that I come from an historic preservation world, and Steve and Jake and Matt are this way. And if this is the spectrum of houses and efficiency and everything else, they're out here as far as passive design and things like that. I feel like I'm maybe in here. I think the extra effort to get there isn't worth it. And so I also look at the spectrum of all houses in America, and I'd say that most houses are in here, right? Because most of the houses pre-1950 don't even have insulation. And so HVAC and things like that is somewhat new. We're also in Texas, okay? And so we're in zone 3. It's hot, but we don't really have heavy cold. And so our median temperatures here, I think, is like 68 or 70 degrees. When we build a new house with an old soul, trying to not have a system that is just gross, right? Not have a system that ugly vent covers. And I'm trying to balance the energy efficiency with beauty and with making it look good. And so there's a lot of ways to do that. We're gonna look at a number, and we're gonna talk about a number of houses that we've done. We did that house in Dallas, or the Pennsylvania farmhouse we talked about at the beginning. Both of those are pier and beam construction. And so, we encapsulated the floor system in there. We actually dug out that house in Dallas. We dug down so we could hang the units in that space. We dug down, then we concreted it, then we put it in, we put French drains in that stuff. Really complex system there in order to build our HVAC in a effective way. Think about the barn. The barn, we actually created a war room. We created a nerve center where all the HVAC equipment could be in one place with the heating and air conditioning and electrical and plumbing. So what I'm trying to say is that I'm evolving as a builder, right? When I first got to know Matt and then started listening to Jake and Steve and those things, I've been pushed farther down that way. At the same time, I want a balance. I don't want to have to build a house that requires a motor to keep the air flowing, right? I've come from that preservation world. In order to build a new house with an old soul, I'm wanting a balance. I'm wanting a balance between an HVAC system that's super efficient, dual motors, a tight envelope with a smart HVAC system, but I'm also trying to balance that with the air grills and where they go. I'm also trying to balance that with comfort for the homeowner and things like that. So realize that I'm not going all the way out to 11, right? All the way up to where those guys are, but I'm trying to strike this balance between beauty and energy efficiency. And us building our houses at that, 89, 92% of where those guys are going is a house that, in my mind, balances the beauty, gives you that old house, give you that old feel without, going too far. Now, we're gonna go look at this 1970s house. That's a new old house in many respects, because they took a lot of architectural salvage from that 1930s house in Detroit. It was the Dodge Mansion, and brought it up here as a Texas oil and gas person who made a lot of money, and he built this amazing house. And so you're gonna see in that house that it's concrete foundations, concrete slab floors, pier and beam construction with a full basement underneath, and the HVAC system in that house is unbelievable. There's no flex ducting in there. It's all built in an incredibly 100-year kind of manner. We're also going to go look at Thistle Hill, which is a 1904 house, right? And we're going to be problem solving how to do a sensitive HVAC system in that house, which has been bastardized in some ways with the chiller system, the HVAC units that take up entire closets. We're going to talk about how to more sensitively build an HVAC system into that house and yet still have that historic charm. Okay, so we're in an amazing mechanical space. This really is the nerve center. This really is where everything happens, and you can come down here and fix everything, right? Because everything is in the same place: electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and mechanicals, data wires. And so we're gonna walk, and I'm gonna show you how far this extends. It's kind of crazy. We're gonna go to another air handler on the other side of the basement to show you the expanse of this. Remember, this is a 20,000 square foot house, and so heating and cooling it is not a traditional system. That's why they're using the chiller system here, but let's go check it out. So now we're on the other side, right? So you see the plumbing lines here, and every plumbing line going to its own bathroom so it can be shut off. Got another air handler here. This is a big mechanical space, okay? This is another level of mechanical building, but something that speaks to the quality. I mean, there's not a flex duct in this house. I mean, it's all steel duct with dampers, pneumatically operated, and so you're looking at an incredible house, a well-built house, well-designed house. Hope you guys enjoy it. I want to go over to Thistle Hill because we same kind of system. We actually have a chiller system. It's a little bit older. It's not quite as elaborate as this, but it's also something we should check out. Okay guys, so we're at Thistle Hill. I wanted to come here because this is a house that's 1904, redone in 1911, that has a lot of the changes and adaptations that were taking place with historic properties as we think about heating and cooling them. This house never had air conditioning, right? Air conditioning, as we talked about, isn't until the 50s or 60s. That right there is called a chiller, okay? And a chiller system is a more efficient air conditioning system. It was put in 85. And so most likely this house had window units for a long time as a cooling mechanism, but it was always heated. The other thing is that there's an opening right here. It would have been a coal chute, okay? So they have a boiler downstairs that we can still see. Lumber companies and things that were also provided coal, and they would come by and there would be a little window there, and they'd open the window and shoot coal down there. It's called a coal chute. So there was ways of heating and cooling before air conditioning, before gas. So we're gonna look at this HVAC system and think through some of the different ways that we can make more efficient use of the space, especially in a historic house like this. So come check it out. We're gonna go inside, we're gonna go down to the basement, look at the original guts of this house, talk about how they heated and cooled this house and how it's changed over time. Okay, so we're standing in a billiards room, and I want to point out the things that you are and are not seeing, okay? There's a grill down here on the ground, right? That's originally where heat would have risen up into, okay? There's a fireplace. In fact, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fireplaces downstairs, and actually there's old fireplaces upstairs. So we're getting a glimpse to how they would have heated it. Look too, they've got a radiator system as well. And so most likely these were added at a little bit different time period, but you're looking at 3 different ways of heating this place. Now, we're in Texas, okay? And so heat may be a problem for 2 months out of the year. It isn't something that you need every day. You know, here we are in the summer and you don't need it now. My point is that when you look at, you know, how they originally heated this thing and you think about how I'm gonna cool, how I'm gonna bring things into this house today, especially when we've got air conditioning as a, you know, new technology that we can use, I'm going back with looking at this kind of show, okay, to hide my grates, okay? What you don't want in a room like this, a great coffered ceiling, is the standard stamped white grill that's all over everybody's house, okay? So here you are, you know, thinking about custom grills. There's a great system that we use called the Unico system. The Unico system is a high pressure, small duct system, and those ducts are about this big. That duct is something that you could hide inside these beams and things like that as a great way to be unobtrusive in the way you heat and cool. They have little thin ducts, they have round ducts, and so, they actually have duct covers that you can even get them in quarter sawn oak, you can get them in maple, you can get them in mahogany, so that they can really blend in. So what I'm thinking about as I'm building a new house with an old soul is how to communicate this age, okay? How do we communicate this in a new house? I'm gonna do it with fireplaces, I'm gonna do it with custom grills, and I'm gonna hide those things as much as possible so that we don't have these white grills everywhere. Here's what happens. The HVAC contractor comes in, he puts the load on your house, and he says, I need grills all over the house, right? Usually they're in the ugliest places in the house, okay? Usually, two, they're huge. Well, I need a 15 by 16, return air area. Okay, well, do we have to have, yeah, I have to have that. Okay, can we split it up? Yeah, you can split it up. Okay, can we move it to these? Yeah, so see what I'm doing there? I am understanding the problem, but I'm trying to solve it, not by just letting the sub drive ugly, right? I am trying to drive that beauty, trying to hide those things so that our house has an old soul, so those things go away. So we are in the coal bin area, right? There's your coal chute. There's your coal would have come down here. There would have been a big pile of coal, okay? So they would have filled this thing up. It would have been a big pile of coal. And look there's my broiler right there, okay? Taking a shovel of coal, throwing it into that bottom door that's open right there. That thing would have lit up. That would have boiled the water. It would have then run through all those radiator heaters that you hear. So there's a hot water system that was going on here. So here you're seeing the guts of the house. Here you're seeing the structure of how this thing would have heated. The other thing you're seeing here are these pipes, okay? Now these pipes are with the chiller system, okay? Your typical HVAC system works because of the use of Freon. Now when Freon goes from a liquid to a gas state and a gas to a liquid state, it gets hot and it gets cold, okay? And so when it gets cold, it freezes up all those pipes and you blow air across it, and that's how you get cold air, is because of the chemical change that's happening with Freon. A chiller system is basically the same thing. It works on Freon, but it works out there. It's a more efficient unit. This house, our Italian Revival house, and great 1970s house, all are working on a chiller system. Why? Because those houses are 15, 20,000 square feet, and it's a more efficient cooling system for such a large space. That 70s house was a 70-ton, okay? So these are cold water pipes, okay? And these are running to the blowers, okay? And the blowers blow across that, and they blow cool air into the house. And so one of the things we're doing on our builds right now is really thinking through spaces like this. Like we're in a great historic house, and they have dedicated a lot of space to mechanicals. They've dedicated a lot of space to the workings, the guts of the house. And so we're trying to incorporate that as well. A lot of our projects 5, 6, 8 years ago were AC over here, AV here, and electrical and tankless water heaters spread out around the house. Now we're trying to have a command center, for lack of a better word, where all these things are labeled, organized, kind of put together so that one, they're hidden, okay, and you're not opening the closet and they're like, what am I, what I'm looking at here? They're organized, right? And so I look at this space and how they built this house and I go, it's pretty organized the way they were thinking through all of this. I've got my electrical panels over here, got my heating and cooling stuff going on. So we're trying to think about that and doing that, okay, thinking ahead of how the house is going to finish out, where ducts are going to go, so that you don't have to build in drop-down ducts and things like that. You've actually already thought about those kind of things so that you are being proactive instead of reactive. You're not going into the Dodge and the HVAC guy goes, I don't have room for that. I'm going to have to go right through your kitchen. He's like, no. You actually already thought through those things, and we're going to put the ducts here, put the ducts there, or wherever you're going to do them. But that should be part of the thinking if you want that, old soul in a new house. Now let's go upstairs. I want to show you a room and show you the consequences of that and how this house was heated, so you can think about the historic precedent as we think about building our new house with an old soul. Okay, so I want to tell you about Unico. When I was at North Bennett Street 30 years ago, Unico was just coming out and they had this small duct system. And in the preservation world, that's a big deal because ducts have to be this big, and these ducts were this big. And if you think of a joist cavity in a house like this, it's probably 2 by 12 at the most. And we don't have web trusses back then. We don't have, big joists. And if you go back even earlier, timber frame houses, you might even have that kind of joist space. So this product, I remember my instructors raving about how this saves historic houses. Here's an example, okay? Here's a closet on the upstairs, and we've lost the closet, right? Because we've got now this huge air handler in here that is taking over my closet and is running all through this house. And so If I had a smaller system, I could push this thing back there, actually still have my closet, and not have to have this behemoth thing in my closet. I've got another one on over there, I've got another one over here, and so these end up taking up a lot of room. I don't know if you guys have been in your attic, and certainly we've worked with when we're putting the HVAC in the attic, dropping the cold air down, you go upstairs and there's this octopus of flex ducts going around the thing that just basically takes over your attic. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a small system that sat on the ground and webbed out to all the different places on your house and didn't take over your attic, right? So high pressure small duct system like Unico is a great solution for historic houses like this, but even for new houses. We also get into situations where we are trying to hide ducts, trying to hide things, make things like there's no ducts in this space, right? There's one up high here. There's no ducts in this space, right? And so if we had came in and we didn't have this kind of grill to shoot our ducts into, what would we do? And so it becomes a great solution for new houses as well. And as far as how we're going to use that, and we've used it in the past very effectively. Part of what we're doing New House Old Soul is we are, historic houses used to be designed from the outside in, right? They were much more conscientious of how things look from the exterior than we are today. There's a stained grade window in the closet of McFarland over here in Fort Worth. We're like, why would they do that? And then you go outside and you look at the symmetry and everything else that it created, and you're like, oh yeah, so they were thinking much more about outside in. And so when we're doing that with a new house and we're thinking about how it's going to look from all these different angles on the outside, sometimes we have to condense a space, or sometimes we lose a closet. We need duct space. And so when you're building that way, you can sometimes get into trouble, not big trouble, but trouble that you need a small duct system that could help you overcome some of the challenges that happen when you build it with an old soul. I hope you enjoyed the New House Old Soul mechanicals. I was talking about the Unico system when we were looking at that HVAC system in the closet. And the really genius thing about this high pressure small duct system is that it can go anywhere. And this is a system I learned about at North Bennett Street a long time ago. Great for historical houses, but it's good for new houses. I'm going to take you over and show you a project that we did a few years ago, finished up, where we used the Unico system, and it was a great solution for us. The ducting was great. The size, we just didn't have a lot of room there. We were able to put the unit in a horizontal position. It's more efficient. There's less duct leakage. There's so many great opportunities and benefits of the Unico system. I'm a big fan. You guys check this out. Let me know what you think. What you're seeing there in the grill work underneath those chairs and things is a return air system. So because this is all glass, we actually used the Unico system in this addition so that we could have an almost invisible HVAC system that still cools this place. As I said, it's going to be 107 today, and it's very pleasant inside here. There's a screen system that really helps, but how do we do that? What you'll see is, if talking about the HVAC, see those little black slots, okay? Those are the supply, and they go around this whole thing. So basically there's ductworks in this kind of fur down area. And then our return air is in this side over here. So we're pulling air from this side up into this area. If this was a conventional system, not only would the air handler need to be found someplace, but I wouldn't have room to have the return and the supply lines coming through the same areas, and it wraps it around to that other side. That really allowed this project to happen, really allowed it to be successful because those ducts were so small and we were able to integrate it so seamlessly. One of the tricks of building New House and Old Soul is that a lot of times with the engineering that happens with new houses with web trusses, you end up with these huge spans and you end up with joist spaces that are 16, 24 inches deep, and that really messes up that scale of that old house. And so old houses didn't have that. You didn't have web trusses. And so typically the biggest span was about 12 inches. And so what that means is that your room sizes shrink a little bit. If you're trying to build that new house with the Old Soul, you try to do it with these new building systems, you can end up with funky wall systems on the outside, windows that look too small for the wall because so much of it is taken up with the web trusses. And so this is a great tool to infuse in your new house. Is a highly efficient system that works with the smaller spaces, works with that new house, old soul look you might be going for. It's a great solution for that new home build, especially if you want that old look.